Please don't tell me the ending of last night's SmackDown was a tease for War Games, because that team just should not be the team. Welcome to Allison Analysis. I'm Ben Allison, and I've analysed last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown, and here are my 5 key findings. In at number 5, the Cody and Roman Reigns segment was exceptional. Not only was it one of the best filmed segments in the history of WWE from a production standpoint, but also from an entertainment standpoint, it was brilliant as well. Cody and Reigns managed to find some common ground while still making it clear they aren't friends. They still don't like each other, but they will work together for the time being, but they still have some unfinished business. One of the things I hate in wrestling is when two rivals are suddenly friends again. It makes no sense, and it kind of makes fans look stupid. But in this situation, they aren't doing that. They have an agreement in place which is mutually beneficial, and it makes sense, and I love that. Now, I do understand why some people are saying, why wasn't this in the wrestling ring? Why wasn't this in front of a crowd? But here's the thing. One, the location of it adds a little bit to the story, but secondly, I don't think they could have gotten this many lines out and delivered them that well if it was live in front of a crowd. The dialogue in this, the execution was so vital, and the fact that it was pre-recorded meant they could do that without having to worry about crowd chants or anything like that. So this was a necessary step in the storyline, and I'm really thrilled at how they did it. In at number 4, where was this version of Andrade in AEW? I'm going to be completely honest here. When I was watching Andrade in AEW, don't get me wrong, he was still good, but I thought he was past his prime. But since he's returned to WWE, he's been better than ever. His United States Championship match against LA Knight last night was brilliant, and sure, there was a couple of sloppy moments in them, but none of them were Andrade's fault. And like I predicted, Andrade and Melo, they will continue to fight forever, and their feud will continue, and I'm fine with it because of the great chemistry the two men have. But this current Andrade run does highlight that in AEW, he was either massively underutilized, or he just didn't care as much. Because realistically, Andrade in AEW should be a match made in heaven. It makes so much sense, and there are so many people there for him to have bangers with. But it just didn't work out at all. In at number 3, what is the plan for Giovani Vinci? I really can't figure it out, and I'm laying awake at night trying to figure it out, and I still can't. If they were going to have him lose again this week to Apollo Crews, genuinely I think it would have been better for him to lose in like 3 seconds or 4 seconds again compared to having him lose in a couple of minutes in the exact same fashion. Because if he lost in even quicker time, at least it would have been funny, at least people would have been talking about it tons again, but the way they did it, it just made him look stupid. I mean, I am guessing the idea is that so people do talk about him, but like, I just don't think it's a good idea, to be honest with you. Because sure, they're talking about him, but I mean, they're not talking about him in a good way, and I don't think he's believable now either. Is he being punished for something? Maybe he is. Like, it's gotten to that point where I'm putting my conspiracy hat on, because that's the only thing which makes a little bit of sense here. I mean, there's so many things you could have done. You could have done the ref properly screwed him again or something. But no, you just did this basically clean finish, and he lost in the exact same manner as last time. I don't get it. In at number 2, the women's tag match was a confusing stipulation with an even more confusing ending. Going into SmackDown, WWE's own website couldn't properly explain this stipulation. And it was basically, if either Bayley or Naomi pinned either Nia or Tiffany, then whoever gets the pin will advance and get the title shot. But if either Bayley or Naomi gets pinned, whoever gets pinned has to leave SmackDown. And when you see it like that, it's not that confusing, but WWE's own website was contradicting itself, Nick Aldis was contradicting himself, and then, I don't even know, they just weren't explaining it at all. I mean, it's a little bit of a headache, it's a little bit overcomplicated, but it's also a lot of fun. But when you do a stipulation this confusing, you probably shouldn't do an even more confusing ending. Because depending on who you ask, tornado matches are meant to have a rope break. Or maybe they aren't. Again, it's depending on who you ask, right? What rulebook you want to follow. But there's an argument there should have been a rope break in that finish. But even if there wasn't, Naomi blatantly did get the pin first. But hey, Bayley and Naomi both pinned Nia, so singles match next week. Why we didn't do a singles match this week, I don't know. I mean, I'm predicting it right now. It's going to get even more confusing next week because Tiffy's accidentally going to cause a DQ, and then it's going to be a triple threat. Like, I think that's obvious where it's going for Bad Blood, and I think it'll be a really fun match, right? And this match was actually a really fun match as well. I don't want to bury the match itself. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, the stipulation was confusing but fun, but the ending, it was a bit unnecessarily complicated. Like, if you're going to do a double pin, I almost think they should have done a roll up in the middle of the ring where both of them had one of Nia's legs. So, like, they both literally did the exact same move, moved back on her, and then had one of her legs each. So that way, there's not really any room for error. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it wouldn't be as complicated. In at number 1, please don't tell me the War Games team is Kevin Owens, Street Profits, and DIY. WWE literally has the potential to do one of the greatest War Games matches of all time from a storyline perspective, and I'm worried they're not going to. To take on the Bloodline, Roman Reigns could have brought back Jimmy Uso. Meanwhile, Cody could have cashed in the favor which Jay still owes him, and Jay could have come into the War Games team as well. And at that point, both Jay and Cody could try and bring Sami into the team, and I think it would make a lot of sense because they want to take care of the Bloodline. This way, you'd bring the Usos back together, even if they still have issues and dislike each other. But Cody, well, he's a common friend. Literally, having Reigns and Cody on the same team and being somewhat civil with each other is the perfect way to bring back the original Bloodline. It's so simple and it's so perfect from a storyline perspective. Like, it is literally on a silver plate for them. Why aren't they doing it? Maybe they will do it, but the ending of last night's show makes me really, really worried that it's going to be Street Profits, DIY, and Kevin Owens. It's long-term storytelling at its finest, but instead it feels like they might just be rushing something together. And before they bring in Sami, they could even tease bringing in Kevin Owens, and KO can be like, no, I hate them, but I'm never working with Roman Reigns or Jimmy Uso. That's not happening. Cody, I don't even trust Jay. And again, long-term storytelling, it would make sense. So at that point, they managed to bring in Sami because, Sami loves Jay, he loves Cody, it makes sense. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Allison Analysis. If you guys did enjoy, please hit the thumbs up button. Next week, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. I'm going on holiday, but a week Thursday, so not this week's episode of AEW Dynamite, but the one afterwards, Allison Analysis will return. But until then, make sure you guys watch Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, which will review all shows and all of that every day, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 p.m. Pacific, live on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel. We hope to see you guys there. Peace!